Good morning, friends. I would like to talk to you about the famous novel of R.K. Narayan, The Vendor of Sweets, in the course of this lecture. At the outset, first, let me tell you briefly what is a novel. A novel is a long narrative in prose. It's a story. A novel primarily tells a story, but it tells us a long story, allowing the development of characters and allowing the development of a human vision, the vision about a society. It is able to tell us, like an epic, the vaster, the greater themes related to humanity. That is what a novel is. R.K. Narayan is one of the famous novelists, Indian English novelists. In fact, among the big three, the other two being Raja Rao and Mulk Raj Anand, Narayan is a craftsman of a different sort. He brings to novel a completely different kind of genre, a completely different approach, and a narrative. 2-3 important things to note about Narayan's novels, all Narayan's novels. First one is, his novels are local narratives, localized narratives. That is, his novels are narratives of Malgudi. Malgudi is a fictional town in the novels of Narayan, which is a small, kind of a big village or a small town, you can say, with typical Indian setting, with typical Indian houses, with typical Indian lifestyle. There is a river flowing by the side of the town. Small Indian town. Kind of a little bigger village. And this small town is of the 40s and 50s. And even up to 60s. Not the modern town. So this Malgudi is the place where his novels happen, where his novels are shaped. So this is the first aspect of Narayan's novels. The second aspect of Narayan's novels is, he is a great humorist. He brings a lot of humor in the presentation of characters and in the presentation of his vision. I'll tell you more about it when we come to the novel, the reading of the novel, The Vendor of the Sweets. The third aspect is his beautiful language. He writes a mellifluous, flowing, beautiful language, very simple and yet elegant. And these are the qualities of Narayan that stand him apart, distinguishing qualities of R.K. Narayan as a novelist. Now, come to the novel, The Vendor of Sweets. Very beautiful novel. The novel is built around two important characters. The father, Jagan, who is the vendor of sweets. Jagan is the vendor of sweets. And the son, Mali, who wants to be, who dreams to be, or dreamt to be a writer. There is a conflict between the two. And this conflict between the father and the son is the theme of the novel, is the crux of the novel. And that's what gives us the vision into the novel. Well, Jagan is a very interesting character at the outset. He is a sweet vendor, got a small shop in Malgudi. And interesting thing is, he's an Indian. He has lived his life typically with the Indian time. Indian time means his life has been built around Indian seasons and Indian life, Indian ways of time tested ways of living for the last hundreds of thousands of years. How? He gets up in the morning, goes to the river, Sharayu river, for ablutions. Then he brushes his teeth with margosa leaves. He doesn't like people using a toothbrush. Takes his bath, comes home, then comes to his sweet shop. He's very good in it, and he has a few servants also. He makes sweets, sells sweets. He sits under the photograph of the gods and goddesses, makes money, and goes home. This is his routine. This is his daily life. And he is a very fascinating character. He is Indian, typically Indian, because his belief systems are Indian. He believes that Indian values are the best, and he believes that Indian medicine is the best. And his wife died because he refused to. One of the reasons why he refused to give her the Western medicine. He holds on to his principle. But he is also a Gandhian, the other important thing. He is also a Gandhian. Gandhian because he lives a life of penury. He lives a very simple, austere life. He doesn't want to spend a lot of money. However, there is a big difference. Okay, I should also tell you one more thing. Like Gandhi, like a true Gandhi, he has read Indian classics, he can quote from them. He can quote Bhagavad Gita. Looks like he believes in the vision of Bhagavad Gita. Everything is fine. So he believes he is a Gandhian. But remember, we know very well, Narayan builds Jagan's character with abundant humor and irony. The humor is, we know that he is not a Pakka Gandhian because he doesn't hesitate to make money. He knows the value of money. And unlike Gandhi, he doesn't believe a lot in the value of giving. He wants to save money. Interesting, he's a very common man's understanding. He represents a common man's understanding of Gandhi. Common man's view of Gandhi. So he is the vendor, sweet vendor, who believes in Indian values, believes in Gandhian systems, though not very original Gandhian systems, value systems. He is making his money, he has made his money. He lives happily with his sweet shop. This is Jagan. And in fact, the character of Jagan gives us also the setting to the novel. That this is the place where the novel happens. And this is a place which has remained like Jagan for the last thousands of years. Unchanged. The values have remained the same for the last so many years. It has held on to its values for the last centuries. Like the river Sharayu, this lifestyle has gone on in Malgudi. So in the first part of the novel, we see this picture. And then what happens is, the novel presents a confrontation, goes on presenting a confrontation between the father and the son. His only son, Mali, is little wayward. He dresses differently. He dresses yellow colored shirt, And then Mali behaves very differently. In the beginning, Jagan thinks these are the aberrations of the young men and women, of the youth. Then he will become all right. But interestingly and quite unbelievably for Jagan, he did not become all right. All right in Jagan's sense. One fine morning, he came up and told Jagan that he is leaving college. Jagan is a bit shocked. Why? But he doesn't have the courage to ask him directly. He asks things. He gets the information or clue into the mind of his son Mali through the cousin. And the cousin comes back and tells Jagan that Mali wants to be a writer. Jagan is now stunned. He's happy and unhappy. Very interesting. Very funny indeed. Happy and unhappy both. Happy because he has seen the photographs of the great writer Rabindranath Tagore hung on the walls. Great writer. So he can imagine Mali in that position. He does imagine Mali in that position. In the place of the photograph of Rabindranath Tagore, he can imagine the photograph of his son Mali. That makes him happy. But at the same time, he has no idea how someone becomes a writer. Or he has no idea how his son can become a writer. And what it takes for someone to become a writer. But anyway, he feels it is his duty to ask his son whether he needs his help. He asks his son whether he wants a table to become a writer, a pen to become a writer, because these are the things he can do for his son. But interestingly, neither the father nor the son know that it's not the table or the chair that make a man a writer. There's something else. Writing takes something else. But then this confrontation intensifies through the novel. Mali suddenly wants to go to America. Jagan is again both pleased and displeased because nobody else has gone to America. That is what brings him happiness. But worried because what his son will do in America, and also the part of the cost part, expenditure part. But his son goes to America. And from America, the son writes very funny letters. Again, Jagan is happy and unhappy. One is because nobody in the village has got air mail till now, so he is happy. He is the first one in the village to receive air mails from abroad, from US. But the unhappy thing is, Jagan advises his father to eat beef through the letters. Very shocking. At the same time, priest, he can't share his turmoil with anyone now. He can only say his son is abroad, and when the letter comes, airmail comes, he feels very happy. But when he opens it, he is not very happy. The father undergoes the internal conflict. And then what happens is, one day, just as Mali goes to US, he comes back from US also, this time with Grace. Grace, his wife. Not married. Shocking for Jagan to the core, to the bottom of the skin. But what he can do? He feels distressed. His house gets divided. One part he stays, the other part his wife and his son and his wife stay. And then Jagan's and then Mali's antics continue. That is, now he wants to invent a writing machine. He has found a collaborator in the US, and for that he has to pay his part of the contribution, $250,000. So that he is going to pay, and that money will come to him from his father, Jagan. Jagan is deeply worried about the nature of this world, the nature of the young men. And then what happens slowly, Jagan also comes to know that there is a gap between, there is a misunderstanding between his son and his son Grace. They are going to separate. For him, it all looks like a great sin. It looks like this world is going out of joint because they are living together without marriage and then they are separating now. All this gives him a deep sense of pain. In this, as part of this, in the last part of the novel, he remembers his own marriage, how his marriage was conducted over the weeks, and how someone came as his wife, but still he accepted her. They lived happily. It looks like our India is the best. It looks like all this modernity is bringing world to its brink. Finally, he gives up all hopes about the world. He is willing to pay off Grace for her return journey. He tells her she can go off. And Jagan is a broken man, completely broken man. The novel presents a happy, a contented Jagan turning into a disappointed man. Okay. Then what is the theme of the novel? Very beautiful novel. The theme of the novel. He turns uncontented, unhappy and discontented man because of his son's modernist adventures. Start trying to set up an industry, trying to become a writer, then marrying someone, and not marrying someone, a foreigner, and then divorcing are all symbols of modernity. Jagan is disappointed with modernity. Now, what is the theme of the novel? The theme of the novel is the conflict between tradition and modernity, or East and the West. Tradition and modernity is a better thing. This is the theme of the novel. Jagan is deeply pained as to how tradition is destroyed with the arrival of modernity. Slowly, though, it comes and takes away our values, takes away our systems, long-lived systems of existence, takes away our methods of living, takes away our contentment, takes away our happiness. All the things that Mali does are symbols for him, are for him the images of modernity. Like he is trying to become a writer, he is trying to start a writing machine, he is marrying Grace. These are the symbols of modernity for Jagan. And when these happen, our traditional lifestyle is lost. And this is the conflict. And this is what the novel tells us. The vendor of sweets. It's not a very sweet thing to happen for the vendor of sweets. But then, interesting, Narayan is not judgmental. He doesn't take any judgment. He doesn't say tradition is the best or modernity is not so good. What he tries to do is typical to Narayan. He makes kind of fun of both, or he tries to hold both the things up to irony. Tradition is laughed through the presentation, the character portrayal of Jagan, because Jagan is not a complete man. Jagan is not a perfect representative of the past or tradition. And at the same time, he laughs at Mali, Narayan laughs at Mali, because he is not a good representative of modernism also. Both are imperfect. And both are imperfect. And therefore, it's in fact laughable. They are trying to represent tradition and modernity. Itself is laughable. But it has happened. So this vision of a conflict between tradition and modernity, and where tradition is also not perfect, modernity is also not perfect, the choice is not very clear. This theme is presented by Narayan very beautifully in the novel, The Vendor of Sweets. Thank you very much.